the day. Please don't be late. Call your friends, I'll call my friends. Let's go and be changed. TMP is doing the most. TMP is doing the most. It's the time of the day. Please don't be late. Call your friends, I'll call my friends.
Hello everybody, welcome back to The Miracle Perspective, and this is the very first show of the Legend Show. And today I have a very special guest. This is a phenomenal guy. I met him about 2 weeks ago and I was like, this is the legend I want on the Legend Show. And it happened to be none other than Amandla Max Didiza. Amandla Max Didiza is a speaker and a businessman. He holds a BA Law degree from the University of Nelson Mandela in South Africa. He also is the managing director of the Black Brand, a company he founded that focuses on brand development and marketing. The founder also of an NPO by the name of Ingomso Yethu Foundation, an NPO that strives to create educational and economic opportunities for young people. Amandla is an avid speaker, master of ceremonies and facilitator who creates motivational content on YouTube. And I am going to put a link to his YouTube channel down below. Amandla was a global youth ambassador for A World at School from 2014 to 2016 and was nominated as the Herald GM Youth Citizen of the Year, making the top 3 in 2015. Amandla also has participated in the South African public speaking contest twice, in 2015 and in 2020, coming up amongst the top 10 of the best speakers in the world. So this is Amandla Didiza. Welcome to the show, brother man. How are you doing?
Hey, thank you for having me on The Miracle Perspective. I'm very good, man, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
I'm honored to have you here today, man. Thank you so much. And let's just get to understand what makes you a legend. I mean, to me, you're already a legend with what you have done. Your profile is big and I know some of the things that you do. But let's just tell the people where you come from, man. Tell me, who is Amandla at the age of 15, 16, 17? I just want to get your journey from where you came from to where you are today. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Thank you very much, Miracle. Thank you for the wise words. I mean, I don't consider myself a legend, but in accordance to your show, I will comply. Thank you very much. I'm honored, man. It's really humbling. But let's just take it back a bit from the ages of about 15 to 16. I was just an average, young lad like anyone else. I was very intrigued and very fascinated by a lot of things. Very curious to understand this concept of life. And so, I dabbled in a lot of things. I guess at a young age, you could call me jack of all trades, master of none. But along the way, there were a few things that I got to know. Like, for instance, the age of 15, 16, there wasn't much that we got to experience. There were things that we did and things that we experienced and, spaces that we engaged in that were a bit outside of our control. There were things that we did by virtue of who we thought we were, by virtue of our aspirations at the time. So I was a very sporty person, very intrigued by sport. I still am, but I think that was really the peak of, my intrigued phase. So I was involved in a lot of sports. I played hockey, cricket, rugby. And, that's what kind of channeled me in life. And I guess that's what brought the discipline today. But at the time, I was just an eager beaver, just willing to try out anything that posed as a challenge to me. And I guess that's where, kind of the academic side flowed in, because with juggling sports, you really have to step up to the plate academically as a teenager and as someone who was in school at the time. So I was an avid sportsman. I was also a socialite, but I would consider myself in a very peculiar manner, one that suggests that I was an introverted extrovert. I had an opinion on a lot of things in life. I drew inspiration from a lot of ideologies and a lot of philosophies at the time, stemming from things like music, movies, and sports. So I was a person who had a lot of opinionated expressions, so to speak. And, I drew wells from a lot of wisdom and a lot of people. And one of the things that I did was I never really was outspoken. I would give my opinion when spoken to. So I guess that's who I was. And of course, taking into consideration the phases in life that we all go through, I was a person who was very reserved by virtue of, the situation that I was in at the time. I was a very confident child, but not too arrogant. I guess that's in a nutshell who I was.
The jack of all trades, master of nothing. That's so in line with who I was, and I think that's why I was so interested in getting you on the show, because usually people like us, brother, we suffer from this issue of having nothing to actually zone into and something that focus all our energy into, because I mean we are talented in many things, but right now I know you have a business of your own. What brought you to that zoning in to business? And you studied law, but you're a businessman in another field. Tell me about that.
I think it stems from a very early age, I remember growing up, I used to work in my grandmother's shop. She was a person who was very entrepreneurial, so to speak, at the time, even though the word wasn't really coined in our, rural urban areas, in our township areas. So from about the age of 12, I was very involved in that. She'd leave me alone on a weekend and I would sell to people, I would interact to people. And I guess that's where I bit the entrepreneurial bug. Moving into university in my earlier years, I started a clothing line called Alakeen. And, it blossomed. It really gave me all the nuggets, all the lessons that I needed to learn from, your value proposition, from your supply chain, because I dealt with a lot of people. I dealt with, the guys who did branding. I dealt with the manufacturers of the clothing. I dealt with distribution. And I then gained those interpersonal skills, those people skills that were critical, because obviously when you're starting out and when you're a young age, you are the business,
Yeah.
So I had to learn a solid dress sense. I then had to develop a way to manage money. At the time, we're young and, we're excited by money coming in, even though it's a really, really, really kind of minute amount of money. But in any respect, I think that's where it started. And your first business won't necessarily be your most successful. And I remember drawing a lot of lessons for that. It really hit a peak and you have to kind of maintain it. And retail or clothing industry is one that relies on a lot of hype. That's why you get your major brands that have a lot of endorsements, because you need those people to kind of market the business. And I think that's where I started being intrigued by what makes a business work. And slowly but surely, I then started studying who I was. And I realized that, like for instance, law is an aging profession. There are not a lot of successful young lawyers. You age into the profession. So I sat down with myself and I asked myself, what makes you happy? What are the things that you'd like to be involved in on a day-to-day basis where even if you weren't making it, you'd still want to do it? And I guess that's where it started in. I was a person who was very involved in youth development. And so I thought brand development was an avenue that I'd like to explore. And I started learning about these things. There was a guy I met in the earlier years. He studied coding. There are so many online courses from your Harvards, from your MITs, and he taught himself how to code. So I thought, why not learn brand development and, on a digital medium? And that's where it started, really, the long and short of it.
Wow, amazing, man. And tell me now, since you're telling me in your story that you went into yourself and you asked yourself, you tried to understand who you are and what really pushes you, what motivates you, and that helped you to find your niche. What can you say? I mean, right now we're in a condition that is plaguing everybody in the world, the COVID-19 situation, and it's affecting the economy in many different areas. But my biggest issue is the personal awareness of what's happening and the personal responsibility of individuals. I mean, you took a responsibility upon yourself to try and understand yourself and come up with something that will actually propel you to move forward and live a life of purpose. Right now, everybody's sitting down and looking at the government. We are all expecting the government to tell us something about our future, about our life. Hey, what's going to happen with our health? What's going to happen with our money? People are losing their jobs. People are doing, we're just looking at the government. What is our individual personal responsibility during a time of crisis like this? Because I know they say out of a crisis situation comes out opportunities to those that seek to see those opportunities. But what can you say? What can you say with regards to this issue on a personal level? How should people look at this issue on a personal level?
Yeah, no, look, in any country, any state needs a function of active citizenship. There's a conjugal relationship that we have with the state. It's a vertical relationship. There's state and there's citizens. So I just personally believe that everyone needs to have a responsibility, and the onus lies on us to be able to navigate our way through everyday life, which is considered to be our new normal now. So it just requires people to really dig deep into themselves and understand, do I really pose a threat to the health risk that is out there? Or am I participating in this new normal that allows us to function in a way that has limited opportunity, but at the same time, if we all put a hand together, we can all be able to move forward. I think people need to really understand their part in the state, because on too many occasions, it's like state benefits. People expect state benefits without really trying to make something of themselves. So I just personally believe that people need to have certain aspirations, health aspirations. I think this COVID-19 pandemic has woken us up to the reality of the health risk that we pose, not only by virtue of this pandemic through its transmission, but even in ourselves and the things that we consume, in our patterns of life. One of the things that have really been alarming in South Africa is the banning of, substances such as alcohol and people's perceptions towards that. And I think our concentration on those things is really about semantics. But in the greater scheme of things, I think we really need to understand the value that we have as people and the contribution that we have in the country and in the world at large, and actually take up that responsibility. There are people that are going without food. There are people that are, your elder citizens, your senior citizens, and they are young people. So we all need to be able, especially people like us who are in our mid-ages, these are prime times. We are supposed to be the ones who kind of work and draw in society to a sense of soberness. So I think we need to wake up to the reality that we matter, and our value in society. And once we draw that inference and we take up that responsibility, then it's just a question of what do I do? If you're aware of your society, then you can lend a hand to those in need. We've been involved in a lot of development in our society where we've been trying to help here and there, especially identifying areas that are personal to us. Like, for instance, we recently had a case where we've donated a number of items for mothers who will be, or parents who will be, introducing their newborn babies into the world and won't be able to afford in this tough time. So it's just a case of each one help one. There's an old philosophy of each one teach one. And at the end of the day, I live by a quote that says, to whom much is given, much is expected. So we need to understand that we've all been given an individual responsibility to take up space wherever we are and be able to help drive this forward and navigate our way through our new normal. So in a nutshell, that's just it. I think people really need to wake up to the reality that let's all work together and be able to beat this, whether it's from an economic point of view, being able to then sit down and say, what else can I do? Because maybe I may be out of a job, or maybe, I may not be as economically active, but what else can I do? The creativity, the ability to think beyond just your mainstream areas of life.
Wow. Interesting stuff, man. Tell me about Ingomso Yethu Foundation. I mean, you are according to your brand and what you have provided is that you provide educational and economic content to young people out there. How exactly does that look like? And during a time like this, what educational content are you relaying to the youth?
Okay, yeah, thank you. I think, it started from a very early stage in my life where I realized that not a lot of people are afforded the same opportunities. I think we were really blinded by how accessible public education is, especially at your grassroots level. That's your basic education. And, when you come into your tertiary education, you realize that it's not as easy, economically it's not as easy. Socially it's not as easily. So there are socioeconomic factors that, kind of hammer on us, and there are also financial impediments. So it was really an inspiration from that. In the early years, we used to connect people, and we still do currently. We connect young people to bursary opportunities. We connect young people to educational content opportunities, supplementary curriculum and opportunities. So there are a number of people that we've got that work with us, your professors, your lecturers, your academics. So we supply young people with those opportunities, and we've got a network of people that are assisting in that regard. And we also draw in young people towards economic opportunities, job opportunities, vacational work. We try and assist young people in the best way as possible to create these opportunities, not necessarily giving people jobs or giving people bursaries, but we allow an ease of process in terms of you being able to access these opportunities. And right now during the lockdown, it's a bit difficult because obviously you can't draw someone mid-year to an educational opportunity, maybe getting a bursary, because we're halfway through the year. But what we do from there on is that we're able to connect young people to opportunities. We're able to, start GoFundMe accounts or back a buddy account to be able to say, look, you're in a position where you currently have e-learning. So let's draw you into opportunities where we can fund you towards the rest of the year. And then from there, we can create, programs and, online virtual communication platforms that can assist you in breaking down these platforms. Currently, there are a number of Twitter campaigns where people are assisting graduates that have been enrolled or have graduated from certain programs and courses. We're able to draw these people in to be able to record content, to be able to say, hey, look, this is a supplementary number that you can use to WhatsApp me if you've got a constitutional law assignment, for instance, if you've got a chemistry assignment. And it's just to make life easier for those people. We're online and we're a number of lecturers, professors, that are versed and skilled in their areas of profession, to be able to come and deliver content and to be able to come and assist students with tutoring programs and with supplementary content.
So if you were to speak to, some people call it the universe. I prefer calling it God. I don't know what you prefer, but let's say if you were to speak to that, whatever thing it is, about Ingomso Yethu Foundation, what would you say right now to the universe? If, let's say right now, the universe is listening and it's ready to offer to you whatever that you want for that organization to grow bigger and to make it bigger, what is it that you would say? And I mean, we never know who's listening to these things, eh?
Yeah, I draw a lot of wisdom from a lot of people, and in turn, I then dispense wisdom on it. I also believe in God, and I really, 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 my earnest prayer, not from a gaining point of view, but just from a people's perspective, a mind mapping, because I'm big on mind mapping, in as much as you can provide people with opportunities, but if you're able to create a sense of consciousness that allows people to take up responsibility of their lives, then you're winning. One of those quotes by myself, obviously, is what you want from the world, or rather what you give to the world, should be what you want from it. And to the universe, I'd really say I would like a sense of awakening from people, to give to the world what they would rather have received. So whatever you want to give, like for instance, in my position, if I would like to give people opportunities, that should be something I in turn would want to receive.
I see. Amazing, man. And the reason I'm asking you questions to sort of like draw a line of your life to where you are and what you are doing, because from whatever you said to me, I learned that you have been on the journey. You have been doing things from when you didn't know where you were going. You've been doing things to a point where you identified yourself and you started finding a niche in a specific direction, and you continued doing things. And right now you're still serving the world, while at the same time you have a business running at the same time. So there's a lot of things to learn from that, and depending on who's listening, man, I think your story is profound. Let me just zone in. Now, this is a favor for the young people who have just graduated or just about to graduate. Let's take you back to when you just graduated. You had your BA Law degree. What would you advise Max? He just came out of school fresh, excited, energetic. Would you have done things differently, considering what you have done already? I mean, you had a law degree, but you went to specialize in something else. And I take it your mother wasn't very impressed about that?
Fortunately, I've got very liberal parents. They allow one to be able to navigate their way through life without the pressures of get this done, get this done. And what I would say to myself, or rather, would I have done things differently? No. And what I would say to someone who has just graduated is that find a way to align brand identity with community management. Because we're trying to create a brand, whether it's through our career or whether it's through our areas of involvement, we're trying to really create a brand, and we're trying to grow ourselves and understand ourselves better and how we can serve ourselves, our families, our communities, and just inspire people through our careers. So with that, in growing into your career and finding your way within your career and your areas of expertise, develop that brand identity, because that will remain constant with who you are. But also be aware that you live with people. You are in a world that has people who need you to serve it. So find a way to merge brand identity with community management. With community management is a responsibility to be able to serve. Like you said, I definitely am still on a journey, yes. But I found a way to be able to say, hey, no man is an island. So with that, how best can I transfer the skill into the community? Because no matter how many people, the one challenge of young people is us wanting to be the most successful people, us wanting to be the most followed people, us wanting to be the most listened to people. So find a way to be able to serve, even if people aren't following you, even if people aren't listening to you, but you have a responsibility and you have a contribution to your community. So find a way to grow within the facets of life and also meet it with the community that we have in society.
Amazing, man. Your words are profound. Finally, you're a speaker, you are an MC, you are a facilitator of various events, and you have a YouTube channel. Let's get to how do people get hold of you? Say they're interested into getting you in their shows, events. How do people get hold of you? And I see you are busy on Instagram. You have great interviews with people like Ayanda Kawe. You have great interviews. I saw last week you had an interview with what's this guy again? Remind me the name of this guy. The actor.
Yeah, Oros.
Yes, Oros. Yeah, you've got those things going for you. How do people now get hold of you? How do they get in touch with you?
Okay, so people can kind of follow me on my social media accounts. On Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. People can follow me on Max Speaks. So on a number of various platforms, it's @_Max Speaks. That's Twitter and Instagram. On Facebook, it's Max Speaks. I've got a YouTube channel called Max Speaks, and people can book me. I've got a rate card, obviously, but I am flexible with the areas that I'm involved in. And for community engagement work, I actually don't charge a cover fee. But you can find me on those channels, and if you want to book me or email me, you can find me on info@theblackbrand.co.za.
Amazing stuff. And by the way, you are a motivational speaker, so people can also book you for motivational speeches and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Amazing stuff, man. I am gonna put your links everywhere, on wherever it's gonna be here, so people can get hold of you through just pressing the links and getting in touch with you. But otherwise, thank you so much, man, for being on the show. I really appreciate. I myself got a lot of value from what you shared today, and I believe that other people out there have gotten the same value that I got, if not more. And I am still looking forward to just following you wherever that you will be in terms of social media presence. And I'm gonna learn a lot from you, I know that. So thank you so much, man, for joining me today on the very first Legends show. Indeed, you are a legend. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been an honor being on your show, and I must say that I can be identified on your show as a legend, but in turn, you creating this platform is in turn your contribution to society, and I believe that a lot of people can pick up a lot of golden nuggets from you, and trust and believe that there are people who are following your path. And just thank you for opening up this space, because at the end of the day, there's a message that we have to give. There's a very popular person called Gary Vaynerchuk, and he says the problem is that we're using social media as distribution rather than native platforms where we can send a message. So I believe that there is a message that you're driving, and there is content that people are actually gaining something from. So kudos to you, man. You're a legend in your own right. Thank you for having me on the show, and it's been a pleasure being here.
I'm humbled, man. I'm humbled by your words. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Thank you so much, buddy. We'll talk. Goodbye.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
It's finished. That's our legend, Amandla Max Didiza. See you next week.
Perspective. It's finished.